Okay, this lorry's just going to sit alongside me now and not keep up with the traffic. Just keep going! I know, but you're holding everyone else up. Keep going! Just merge in up there! Yeah, but merge in up there. You're causing a pinch point here, merge up there.
So here we have a rare instance where a lane that is closing is being used correctly in congestion up to the merge point, and a truck driver decides to intentionally obstruct the road to block it from being used correctly, creating a large gap, essentially turning that stretch of tarmac into an art installation for the drivers in lane 1. Before we get into it, if you enjoy my videos and like my liability reviews, do make sure to drop a follow. So this footage was filmed by an HGV driver who is obviously an absolute professional, understands how to drive correctly, and understands the bigger picture when it comes to congestion. He's in lane 1, approaching the roadworks where lane 2 closes and merges with lane 1. Lane 2 is also filled up completely at this point, which is what is supposed to happen approaching a lane closure when there is congestion, so as to contain the traffic in a smaller area. The HGV that he allows to join the road is obviously driven by a papier-mâché traffic cop who is allowed to join from the slip road, and for an unknown reason moves straight into lane 2 and creates an obstruction in that lane. The driver of the camera HGV decides to try and instill some basic education, but the papier-mâché traffic cop in the other HGV is clearly from the same class as Officer Doofy and doesn't understand what is being said. It's wild that in one of the rare instances where what is supposed to be happening is actually happening, that a brainless idiot in an HGV with no objective or critical thinking skills can just stop it by obstructing the road. By doing that, all he's doing is turning the rear of his HGV into the pinch point. If they wanted the pinch point to be there, they would have brought the lane closure up a further 1,000 yards, but they haven't. There is always going to be a pinch point because you cannot move 2 lanes of traffic into one without a pinch point. So if your argument is that you should just move over earlier and it'll flow better, then you don't understand that there's always going to be a pinch point when you reduce lanes, and you're essentially arguing for every road to be 1 lane in either direction throughout the country. Scrap the motorways, scrap the dual carriageways, let's just have 1 single lane in either direction. He's very lucky that one of the car drivers behind didn't send this to Operation Snap, because this reminds me of a situation that occurred in the northeast a few years back. There were some major roadworks in Northumberland on the A189 Spine Road which required a lane closure. As soon as the lane closure was put in place, this caused huge congestion because the sheep people NPCs were moving into the left lane as soon as they saw the sign which told them that they could use the right lane for another 1,000 yards. And that meant it created one long line, with the sheep people then just joining the back of the queue instead of using critical thinking. This blocked many slip roads that joined the Spine Road, which then caused congestion to spread to the roads that connected to that slip road around the huge town called Cramlington, essentially gridlocking it for absolutely no reason. At times, this one long line of congestion even went so far back that it obstructed the massive Spine Road and A19 roundabout at Moor Farm, 2 miles behind the closure. So then the traffic management company added use both lanes to queue signs. Even after those signs, drivers were either obstructing lane 2 like this, or they were blocking the lanes by straddling. This caused Northumbria Police to start putting out information that if anybody obstructed lane 2 or straddled, they would be liable to prosecution for careless driving. And after a few days of active police work along that stretch of road, for the most part, people eventually started using both lanes to the closure, then merging in turn like a zip, which meant that the slip roads that joined the road were freed up and the congestion didn't go so far back that it blocked the major roundabout that intersected with the A19, and most importantly, Cramlington was not gridlocked for no reason. To cover off the idiotic comments that will be inbound, here is a quickfire round. This sign tells you one piece of information only. It tells you how long the lane that is closing can be used for. It does not mean that the lane is closed. It also doesn't mean that you should exit the lane now. If traffic is flowing, you absolutely should be moved out of this lane way before the closure. But if traffic is slow and congested, then you should be maintaining the lane that you're in until the closure. This is not about speed or the time it takes to get through the closure. It's about containing congestion in a smaller area so as to not have it spread to further roads or roads around that would join the road with the closure. If you're going to say that obstructing the lane is good and it stops people from passing a load of cars and then merging in, as you could see at the start of the clip, the road was being used correctly. Nobody would be able to pass a load of cars and merge in because both lanes were being used to the close as they should be. The only thing that creates that kind of situation at a lane closure is people leaving the lane that's going to close too early. That allows that lane to be empty and allows people to do that. Typically, those angriest at people flying up an empty lane are those that caused the situation. They think they're angry at people skipping the queue, but they're actually angry at themselves for leaving that lane before they should have. If you're going to say when there's one long line of congestion and someone uses the open lane and merges in ahead of you is skipping the queue, I've got a little news flash for you. It's not a queue, it's just congestion. You're in the congestion and you are the congestion. There is no order. It's not a doctor's surgery or a butcher's counter or a supermarket till. There's no ticket, there's no order. If you don't like somebody passing you, you are more than entitled to use that second lane, and if you were in the second lane and moved over before the closure, then you yourself are the person responsible for you being passed. And no, you cannot compare a dual carriageway to a supermarket, so stop even trying. And no, using an empty live lane is not misusing a lane to get ahead. Using a lane that everybody has left before they should have, but is still open and live and allowed to be used, is no different to driving on an empty country road in the middle of nowhere. It's there to be used. It's open, there's nothing you can do to stop people from using it. Unless you want to risk a careless driving charge if it's caught on dashcam. Lovely jubbly, sound as a pound.